The finals are set in Rhode Island for our winter 2024 season, and we have a rematch in the finals for the first time since 2018. So throwing it back a little bit with some history for you to kick off the semifinals postgame show. We're going to break down the two semifinals we saw on Tuesday night and then get to a finals preview where I'm going to have our analysts standing by, give you an X factor, something that they're looking for in that game. And then I'm putting them on the spot to make some picks. So you have to stay tuned to see which team they pick between Lob City and the Halfway Crooks as those two teams get ready to face off again in the winter 2024 finals. Again, welcome to the post-game show. I'm Joey. We have Colin and Wyatt standing by. Guys, let's kind of start with the semifinals, and let's start with that Lob City game. A highly anticipated game, Lob City and the Road Dogs. It was a 1-4 matchup, but it didn't feel like it. Let's put it that way, especially kind of as the game got going. We can talk about how Lob City kind of jumped out, and I know we have the stats on our website as well. I mean, 23-8 after the first quarter. Kind of, it's funny. I mean, during that first quarter, I think somebody, and it might have been Ben Nuri, who yelled, "It's playoff time." I think he hit a three, and he doesn't take many threes, and he kind of was like, "It's the playoffs are here, like we told you guys." And so it's funny, the Road Dogs did everything they could to battle back, was really never really able to, I think, get it under 7, 8. I mean, I don't think they ever really put the pressure on, and definitely did not even the score. But made a run and stayed in it and kept it around that 10, 12-point game, kind of within striking distance. Let's go to Wyatt first, and then we'll flip the order on the other game. But Wyatt, Lob City, not that they never looked back, because I think they had to, kind of put the Road Dogs away. But how did this game differ from what you expected, or what surprised you from what you saw between Lob City and the Road Dogs?
I mean, like during the regular season, Lob City's kind of flashy. They do a lot of flashy things, but playoff time, they're locked in on the defensive end, and it's clear. Like they're calling out switches, they're calling out everything. I mean, on the defensive end, they're just dominant. They're able to slow down the other team's offense. The Road Dogs weren't able to just push the ball up the floor. They had to settle for a lot of shots. I mean, granted, Road Dogs hit 8 for 13 from three, so they were hitting those shots. That's why it was a close game. But they didn't allow them to get to the paint. I think the game would have been much closer if they were able to get to the paint more. But yeah, Lob City's defense is definitely what got them the win.
You talk about a few big things there, and it's kind of one of those things I've said many times. The game slows down, and this was a definition of what I meant, as far as 56-44 being the final score. So not as high scoring, both teams playing defense and really having to grind out possessions. And it's funny, before we get to Colin, I was talking with Owen Reed, an intern from the summer who's been around and been keeping an eye on the league. And he's like, it's so funny how it always turns into basketball. Like, we show up for a low rim league, and during the regular season, sometimes you get a basketball game, and sometimes you get more of kind of like Wyatt said, flashy plays up and down, a little more light spirited. And you get to the playoffs, and Owen's telling me here we go, a basketball game broke out, and so it's funny how it really is, resembles basketball, kind of like we say all the time. And that's what happened, and I think Lob City locked in on defense, and both teams settled in. But I think it was Lob City just coming out, really taking that first punch, and we'll go over some stats in a second. But Colin, what do you have to say on those points about it slowing down and kind of what Lob City was able to do?
Yeah, so I could tell right off the bat that defense intensity was completely to a different higher notch from Lob City, like I'd never seen before. And I think Lob City did a really good job of getting out and for their transition defense. And like I really never really seen transition defense in this league like Lob City played against Road Dogs. And I think Lob City also did a good job of getting underneath the Road Dogs' skin. It seemed like they were really getting the Road Dogs aggravated, and it was really messing with their mentality. And it threw their game off a little bit. And I think that if the Road Dogs just needed a few stops in the fourth quarter, and it would have been a 1 or 2 possession game, they just couldn't stop Joseph Secator. They couldn't stop Colin Burns. And, shout out to Lob City for getting the job done.
Great points. And I think, on that point, you talk about the fourth quarter, them needing some stops. Obviously, that would have been huge. I think when they started to settle in, whether it was second quarter or third quarter, I mean, the Road Dogs won the second quarter, 13-12, and then the third quarter was close, 14-10. The They also won that quarter. So there you go. I mean, they settled in and were able to, sure, winning a quarter doesn't mean anything if you're already down 15, right? So sure. And they didn't win by, they didn't outscore them by 20 in those quarters. So this point obviously comes with a little something with it, right? But during those stretches, there was moments where the Road Dogs were kind of trying to get in their rhythm, hit some of those shots, kind of speed up the pace a little bit, trying to come back, and they would get a stop and try to almost go maybe a little too fast, too anxious to kind of break into that lead and maybe miss a semi-easy one that they would normally make. And now it's Lob City who's able to get a rebound and almost counterattack and kind of get 2 points the other way, a 4-point swing. So I think that happened a couple times where the Road Dogs would hit a three. Mark Washington, let's kind of shout him out during this, 16 points, 4 of 6 from three. There's a clip that stands out, a crazy three in transition, like a guy behind him, a guy on the side of him, he just pulls up and hits it. So they were playing their game, and it's in moments like that where it's like, all right, Mark just hit a three, like they would get a stop. Another bucket there is obviously a 5-point swing. We can do math. That's kind of how you would build into that lead, kind of break down that lead. And they were never able to kind of have that happen enough to in my opinion. And then things would shift back, and Lob City was kind of able to get a dunk, get to the basket, get fouled, hit some free throws, and kind of stop that momentum is the point. Rhian Watts, 12.6 rebounds. Anthony Lyons, 2 threes for the Road Dogs. And Colin Burns, you mentioned, 12 points. Rayvon Dunbar, a couple blocks, and 9 points. Nuri Mahmoud, 9 points. And that three-pointer I talked about, making sure everyone knew, it's playoff time there for Lob City. So they do advance. They remain undefeated. And Nuri's post-game interview, he touched on a lot of the things we just talked about, how it's playoff time and they are ready. So Lob City will take on the second-seeded Halfway Crooks in a rematch from the summer finals as the Halfway Crooks take down the Regulators, the third-seeded Regulators, 81-73 in the other semifinal, but not without a fight from the Regulators. And it's funny, I mean, both games, score-wise. So we had a 12-point game between Lob City and the Road Dogs, and then an 8-point finish between the Halfway Crooks and Regulators. So both games were close. I mean, this is something you guys can touch on. They both kind of felt similarly, a 10-point lead for much of the second half, kind of for the Halfway Crooks and Lob City. So that is close. I mean, it could be a blowout. And this is not a shot at either team. I mean, it kind of felt like the teams that won settled in and were in control in the second half for both of those games. So never really like either team who ended up not coming through being able to put the pressure on in the way they would have liked to kind of take a lead in the second half and take a lead. That's the goal, win the game. But it is Halfway Crooks winning by 8 after, being down 10 in that first quarter. And I know the post-game interview with Ethan kind of touched on it. I mean, the Regulators didn't miss early. Wyatt and I had a moment before the show. They went 14 of 38 from three. And so we talked about, not that the Regulators aren't a good team, but one way to kind of make up maybe some of the size that you're lacking or to pull off an upset is to take a ton of threes and make a ton. And so 14 is right around that number I was talking about. 37% from three. They were open. And to be honest, I feel like they probably, in an honest conversation, should have made 18 or 19 of those 38 on another day. Just open ones that didn't fall for them. That would have made the game a little different based on the final score, as we talked about. But let's go back to Colin here to kind of break down. I mean, let's go in order a little bit. That first quarter, the Regulators were hitting threes and the Halfway Crooks were not getting as many buckets, able to kind of build a lead. What changed? Because it's easy to say one team was making shots and one team wasn't as much, right? What shifted really in that second quarter that allowed the Halfway Crooks to kind of, well, they did erase that deficit pretty quickly?
Right. So I think I feel like the Halfway Crooks kind of changed their game plan. So they would have one person start shooting out to be a runner and run the transition. It would usually be, Ethan Austin, and you grab the rebound and Ethan Austin would be open down court. And that was set up 2-on-1 opportunities, 3-on-2 opportunities. And, basketball is a game of runs. There was moments where I thought the Regulars were going to pull away, but then out of nowhere, it's a one possession game. In the fourth quarter, I thought, Halfway Crooks are going to pull away, but then out of nowhere, it's 7-point game. And like you had mentioned, that it was Halfway Crooks had made 5 threes compared to the 14 threes. So I think that you guys kind of let them live or die by the three, and then you would close out on the shooter, and if the shooter would follow his shot, you would have him wide open down court. And yeah, shout out to you guys for getting it done.
Yeah, a little bit of a counterattack there, right? So if you're going to take a ton of threes, that if you're not going to make them, leads to some longer rebounds, right? And so that outlet pass is there. And I think really it started on defense. And so, why I can touch on this in a second. I mean, that second quarter, a little bit of a defensive shift where, just focusing more on that man-to-man coverage, so that they didn't get as many easy three-point shots. And then that kind of turned into the offense. And of course, when a team is making a ton early, most likely it's not going to continue at that pace. And so there's always some, counteracting there at that point. But, Tommy McSparron, 31 points, 5 threes for him. So not normally, he's a good shooter, but I don't know if he's taken that many. He took 9 and made 5s, but a ton of mid-range for him. And that's kind of the game plan against him, which is kind of a thing you don't see a lot in any basketball, especially in this league. Usually it's threes and you want to get to the rim for some dunks. And he's like, I'll take the mid-range. I'll take this 8-footer. You're going to kind of leave me, because I faked to drive. I'll take this 16, 17-footer free throw extended because I'm coming off a pick and you're kind of sagging, going under it. And he hit him. And so it really just kind of changes the way you have to defend there. Joey Cordero with 15 and 5 threes himself. Justin Titsworth with 14. But Charles Alexander, 21 points, and Ethan Austin with 20. Charles Correa with 18. So, the usual suspects for both teams did their part. I really think it shifted on the defense and in that second quarter. And then, like I talked about, and I guess I'll throw it to Wyatt, with this point, erasing that first quarter, and not that it didn't happen, really felt like, and of course I'm biased, right? So you could tell me if I'm wrong, Wyatt. Felt like offense was a little easier, appeared easier for the Halfway Crooks to get the shot they wanted once that shift happened versus the Regulators. Maybe that's just a matchup thing, being a little bigger size-wise. But what do you think about that, where I felt it? So whether I'm right or wrong, I felt it. A shift where it's like, all right, we can kind of get, as the Halfway Crooks, not whatever shot we want, because the Regulators are playing defense, but the type of shots we want if we execute, where the Regulators kind of really had to work a little harder on offense. What do you say about that?
Well, I think the Halfway Crooks, their game plan stemmed from how the Regulators were playing. The Regulators were taking a lot of transition threes, which I'm not a huge fan of. They weren't very efficient on those towards the mid part of the game. And when the Halfway Crooks would grab a rebound, pass the ball, I don't want to say they're cherry picking, but they kind of were, because they're getting the ball down and they were getting into the paint real quick, and it was like a free layup almost every time. I mean, that just contributes to efficient offense, and that's hard to stop. I feel like if the Regulators were like trying to work it in the paint a little more, they might have been more successful, but they have the size disadvantage, so who really knows?
Good point. And I will say cherry picking comes with a negative connotation. And so I will say the person who was getting that outlet was crossing over the other free throw line, like playing defense. It was just kind of, once a shot would go up, we were bailing on we didn't need that. Let's say we didn't need that fourth person to rebound because we had the size advantage, right? We were kind of prioritizing a counter attack rather than 4 people rebounding. So that will change as we get to this finals preview, but a good point as far as, kind of using that size and attacking the basket for the Halfway Crooks. Yeah, I mean, Devon Pina, he took advantage down low as well, 13 points for him. So, the usual suspects, and everyone will be needed as, we kind of, let's get to that finals preview. Undefeated Lob City and the 2-seed Halfway Crooks, where their only 2 losses came to that Lob City team this season. As we kind of look back at the finals from last year, obviously not that, both teams are pretty different, but it is a finals rematch from the summer. It was a 60-47 advantage for Lob City, and it took a 9-point fourth quarter, edge, where the game really flipped in favor of Lob City a year ago in the finals, and then they outscored the Halfway Crooks by 10 more points in the fourth quarter to kind of finish the deal. The Halfway Crooks only scoring 11 points after halftime. So do some math. That's not ideal, obviously. And really, because I lived it. Some injuries, some other things. It's not an excuse. Lob City was fresher, was able to sub, and took advantage of that in the second half. And that's what happens. And they were able to kind of use that and go on their run and win another championship. So as we look to this year's finals rematch, we can kind of talk about those first two matchups, right? So that first game was a super close game. Ethan talked about it in his post-game interview about, it being a 3-point game, and he actually had the shot that would have tied it in week 4, I believe, 3 or 4. So the first time these two teams met, the second time not as close. And Jared wasn't there for the Halfway Crooks. Not that, I love Jared and we're going to have him for the finals, so I won't even continue that sentence because obviously it's nice to have your full team. But I expect Lob City to also have their full team in this finals. So as promised, we'll go Colin first on this one. We'll kind of backtrack it here. What are you looking for? So without making a pick and without giving too much away, these two teams face off for a third time this season. We've talked a lot about both of these teams. What's going to be the difference? It could be a player. It could be, rebounding. Defense, I think, is kind of an easy one. So if you want to take the easy way out, go ahead. But some of the matchups, right? This person guarding this person and how that plays out will kind of tell us the story. What do you think, Colin, as we kind of preview this finals matchup?
So overall, I think the X factor is how I previously mentioned how important transition defense is, because it is really backbreaking just to let up, a 2-on-1 fast break and an easy layup. It's a quick 2 points, and it's just demoralizing to see that from the opponent's side. And I think another big thing is how whatever team wins, how they decide to defend the pick and roll, if they're going to, hedge high and fall back, or if they're going to switch, because if you switch, there's going to be a lot of mismatches, drawing in the help defender side. They'll be open threes in the corner at that point. So, if they're going to be switching, you got to be ready for that, the open threes in the corner. But if you're going to be hedging high, there'll also be help. So I think that the pick and roll game will also be crucial.
Yeah, pick and roll defense. And fast breaks. Both teams are pretty good. I think Lob City actually has an advantage. And it doesn't mean it can't shift for one game because both teams have talented players. On that fast break point, I think Lob City is much more dangerous as far as consistently finishing that 2-on-1. Just having played together more and knowing the spacing, and that's just really what it is. And finishing those 2-on-1s every time you get them is a huge advantage. Then that pick and roll defense. I mean, Wyatt, Colin didn't save you too much to talk about, but obviously he did. There's a lot more to talk about. But that pick and roll defense, yeah, if you're going to give up the 3 and teams start making those threes, it shifts exactly how both teams are going to have to play that pick and roll. Wyatt, yeah, what's your X factor in this one?
See, I think the game's going to be decided in the paint. I mean, that has a lot to do with the pick and roll, obviously, because the player rolling to the net, if they have a free bucket, they're getting it every time. But I think Devin Peenan's going to have to lock in. He's going to have to be an anchor on defense. He's going to have to stop everything. He's got to grab those rebounds. I mean, if they get second chance points, there's little you can do against Lob City because they have the 3 elite finishers on their team. Colin Burns, he'll put up everything. Secator, he'll also put up everything. So, I mean, if they anchor on the defensive end towards the paint, I think the Halfway Crooks have a good shot because they'll be able to get those stops and limit the rebounds.
I just did some, without, we don't prepare here, and I'm kidding when I say that. But pulling up the box scores from earlier in the season, in that 3-point game that the Halfway Crooks lost in week 4, offensive rebounds, which I think is a great point because second chance points are usually easier. 10 offensive rebounds for the Halfway Crooks and 8 for Lob City. So the Halfway Crooks actually won the offensive glass in week 4. Fast forward to week 7 when we talked about how Lob City won by double digits. It was 13 offensive rebounds for the Halfway Crooks and 21 for Lob City. So a lot more second chance opportunities. Forget comparing because they are obviously not directly related. Both teams can get offensive rebounds. It's on different baskets. But for Lob City to have 21 offensive rebounds in that game, I think that's too much, right? If the Halfway Crooks are trying to keep this even. All right, without further ado, so you can tease it a little bit. We'll go Colin and Wyatt again. We'll just keep the order going. Make your pick. Who you got? We're not even going to set a line. None of that stuff. Straight up, who you got and why in this one?
All right, sorry, Joey. I hate to do it to you, but I think Lob City is gonna eat Pete. Just from what I've seen, they're just really explosive, and their defense. I think their defense is just a little bit. They have the edge on you guys. Um, they're faster. They get out in transition better. But if you guys find a way to stop the transition, it'll be close. It'll be decided in the final shot. But my pick's Lob City.
All right, Wyatt.
Hate to double down, but I got Lob City too. I mean, their defense is just too dominant. I think a weakness of your team is obviously defense. I feel like sometimes you guys don't shut down on the defensive end. You're not able to get out on shooters sometimes. I don't know if it's an effort thing or a game plan thing, but if you guys figure out the defense, I think the game will be much closer. But I got to go Lob City.
That's right. Defense will definitely be a key, that's for sure. And I think, let's just play devil's advocate. Why wouldn't I, right? But I think, yeah, getting out on those shooters, I think offensive rebounds is a great point, and I think foul trouble is going to be huge for both teams. I mean, both teams have some depth, but it's not in past years, as Lob City, I think, would agree, where they've had 6 players in the past where they would all, be fine finishing a game for any team in this league. And both teams have good players. I think both teams have guys that they would obviously prefer out there in crunch time. And so if those guys are getting in foul trouble, it's the people we've talked about all show, right? Charles Alexander, Devin Devampina, Charles Correa, Ethan Austin, Joe Secator, Colin Burns, Nori Mahmoud, and I'm not trying to list 4 to 3 here, Rayvon Dunbar, both teams, if the key players and defensively, if their key players get in foul trouble, and that's kind of how the game goes, that can shift things as well for either side. So I think that's another thing to keep an eye on. Lob City in search for their 8th Legacy League's crown. The Halfway Crooks looking to get their first in their 2nd finals appearance, and Lob City is undefeated in the finals as well. So the one year that they didn't win it, they actually lost in the semifinals. So every time they get there, they've come through. They're 7-0, looking for number 8, which will be the most in either league, that's for sure. I know Connecticut has had some overlap and some players with a lot of championships, but not a team like this. So either way, we have some history to be made on Tuesday, March 26th. You can watch the game live on our YouTube at 8 o'clock. The finals will have trophy presentation afterwards that we'll post the next day. We'll announce a finals MVP. You guys get 1 word, because I do want to get out of here, and this has been a really good show. Just which player you think will be finals MVP. So it could be 2 words for a first and last name, but no explanation. So Colin, finals MVP.
I'm gonna go with Colin Burns.
Wyatt?
Gotta go with Secator.
Okay. Both of you did, more than 2 words, but that's fine. And neither of you said me, which was the easy pick for finals MVP. I'm kidding. So guys, good job today. We will see you at the finals. And then by the time you're watching this, our all-star draft will have already come out. So you can see who's been an all-star by watching that on our YouTube channel. We're going to be announcing our 3-point participants, our dunk contest participants, and all of that all-star fun will take place on Tuesday, April 2nd. All of that will also be live on YouTube. So watch that, watch the finals. Guys, good job. And thanks for watching the post-game show.